Kevin Stefanski feels like his job may be on the line?
I don't concern myself with outside type of things. But I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
And so you didn't get this man a fighting chance to compete. He went into a gunfight with 2 knives. He gonna lose that every time.
You know you're going to waive Tyler Huntley. So what good did that 2-minute drive do for him? Was it going to help him? Don't you think Shedeur would have benefited more from a 2-minute drive than Tyler Huntley?
Coach Kevin Stefanski looks like he's backing off, and the heat is clearly on him and the Browns to make a call. After the game, several offensive linemen who'd been on the field with Shedeur Sanders were waived, and a few players had their deals terminated. The blowback was immediate, forcing Stefanski to explain his handling of Shedeur's snaps, especially why he pulled him before the 2-minute hurry-up, a situation many felt fit the rookie perfectly. Stefanski didn't sound convincing. Under obvious pressure, he said he put Tyler Snoop Huntley in for the final 2 minutes to get him tuned up. He looked rattled delivering it, still pushing the idea that Huntley needed that work. Let's be real, Huntley was an emergency pickup when injuries piled up. He's a stopgap, unlikely to stick on the 53, and yet Stefanski used that moment to sit Shedeur. The message in his tone was hard to miss. He knows the choice isn't playing well, and the whole approach around Shedeur Sanders is already blowing back on the staff. Before we go deeper into Stefanski's full comments and what they mean going forward, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more updates. As for the decision itself, the head coach's shaky explanation only highlighted how tense things have become. Framing the move as a tune-up for Huntley doesn't track with the stakes or with Shedeur's development timeline. It looks less like a plan and more like a scramble, and it's starting to backfire.
And did you, I'm sure you kind of answered this last night, but why didn't you keep him in for the 2-minute, or why did you decide to take him out?
Yeah, nothing more than decided to give Snoop.
TJ Houshmandzadeh, the former NFL wideout, didn't mince words about Kevin Stefanski's handling of Shedeur Sanders. He said that in all his years around the league, he's never seen a coach appear so uninterested in a player's success. To Houshmandzadeh, Stefanski's choices look personal, like there's a grudge against Shedeur, and that's what he finds most troubling. TJ Houshmandzadeh called the bias blatant and cautioned that, if it's real, the push on the Browns to dismiss Kevin Stefanski will only intensify.
The fans gonna be saying, Shedeur our quarterback. Shedeur should be our starter. Shedeur should be the guy that starts game 1, week 1. Look what he did. They didn't want that to happen. And I don't know what's going on with Kevin Stefanski. It's almost as if, and I don't even want to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
And that's exactly how it came across. Kevin Stefanski's body language said plenty. He looked like a coach feeling the axe over his shoulder. TJ Houshmandzadeh added that this isn't the first time Shedeur Sanders has been treated this way. He pointed to the opening preseason game, where Shedeur was sharp, yet Stefanski offered no real praise. Now, after what unfolded yesterday, it looks like Stefanski is pushing the idea that Shedeur was at fault, almost as if he's trying to validate the staff's stance that they were right and Sanders was wrong. TJ even suggested it felt like the situation was engineered from the start to make Shedeur come up short.
Well, like when he played well the first game, he was so off-putting, like, oh yeah, well, we'll see what happens next. Like, he played great, man. He exceeded our expectations. He didn't say none of that. And
Right.
So to me, it's as if they want him to fail so they can justify doing what they want to do.
And Houshmandzadeh's red holds up. From the very first preseason outing, Kevin Stefanski's slant felt apparent. Even after Shedeur Sanders put together an impressive, mistake-free showing, Stefanski declined to highlight him, retreating to broad comments about developing all the quarterbacks and skimming past Shedeur's standout work. It didn't come across as genuine buy-in on Shedeur's future in Cleveland. Now the spotlight is squarely on Stefanski, who seemed intent on easing Shedeur towards the margins. Ironically, the coach looks more vulnerable than the rookie. After weeks of rigid messaging and thin criticism, he's suddenly pivoting, saying they'll concentrate on developing Shedeur Sanders. An about-face that screams pressure from the fan base. And it isn't only fans. Reporters and analysts are pressing him as well. Emmanuel Acho weighed in, arguing that by placing Shedeur with an offensive group filled with players unlikely to make the 53, Stefanski engineered a no-win evaluation. Acho's point was straightforward. Even a quarterback with Tom Brady's resume would have struggled in that setup with that caliber of support. In those conditions, any rough patches for Shedeur were predictable, an indictment of the context, not the quarterback.
What a COVID year, so he gave everybody an extra year if you wanted it.
Understandable. But listen,
what the chat say? The chat believe he took a shot or no?
Let me look in the chat. I ain't even open my phone. Hold on. I'm curious to see what the chat would think. They are saying
Hushman Zeta's take still holds. From the first preseason snap, Kevin Stefanski's slant felt obvious. Even after Shedeur Sanders delivered a crisp, mistake-free showing, Stefanski sidestepped any real credit, defaulting to broad talk about developing all the quarterbacks and skating past Shedeur's standout work. It didn't read like genuine buy-in on Sanders' future in Cleveland. Now the spotlight has swung to Stefanski, who looked intent on easing Shedeur to the edges of the plan. Ironically, the coach seems more vulnerable than the rookie. After weeks of rigid messaging and thin critiques, he's suddenly pivoting, saying they'll focus on developing Shedeur Sanders. A shift that screams fan pressure. And it isn't only the fan base. Reporters and analysts are pressing him too. Chad Okosinko weighed in, arguing that by sticking Shedeur with an offensive group filled with fringe or soon-to-be-waived players, Stefanski set up a no-win evaluation. Ochocinco's point was straightforward. Even a quarterback of Tom Brady's caliber would have struggled in that environment with that level of support. In those circumstances, any rough patches for Shedeur were predictable, an indictment of the setup, not the quarterback. Chad Ochocinco warned that the chorus of team-friendly critics would soon start branding Shedeur Sanders a bust, reducing him to fifth-string status, and the real problem would get ignored. Kevin Stefanski put Shedeur in a no-win setup. Despite growing backlash, Ochocinco argued this all looks like a coordinated effort to drag Shedeur down, with more energy spent tearing him apart than acknowledging why he struggled. He was right about the setup, but wrong about the Browns skating by. Fans are loudly calling for Stefanski's job over what they view as clear bias towards Shedeur Sanders, and that pressure is only intensifying. Skip Bayless also weighed in, blasting Cleveland's approach as the worst way to handle a young quarterback. He pointed to a recurring pattern. Shedeur has been consistently mishandled by Stefanski and by the organization, and that this isn't a one-off misstep. In Bayless's view, Sanders hasn't been given a fair runway or the right support, and the way the team has managed him has only piled on the pressure, making it even harder for him to succeed.
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened. By the way, Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
Given how this has played out with Shedeur Sanders, it's hard to escape the sense he was put behind the 8-ball from the start. When he made his first preseason start, Stephen A. Smith said the Browns were setting Shedeur up to fail, and recent events only strengthen that take. Between the lack of meaningful first-team reps and a string of puzzling play calls, the context never looked built for growth. At this point, the pattern makes his setbacks feel less like natural growing pains and more like the product of an environment that was never set up for him to succeed.
An opportunity now in Cleveland with a quarterback situation that, honestly, he can come out of and win the job. I think he'll do well. I really do. I think the kid works really hard. I think he loves the game of ball. And when it comes down to it, if you have a guy like that loves the game, obviously grown up around it his whole life, I think he'll be successful.
He has a tremendous luxury to change plays at the line of scrimmage and what he sees. But you got to take into account that this kid has started every game in his high school career. This kid has started every game in his college career but one. He's seen a lot of football. So it's not too many complex defenses that you could throw at him that he hadn't seen. He's seen all of them.
What happened behind the scenes in Miami last week left NFL scouts, general managers, and team owners completely shocked. Shedeur Sanders put on a performance that was so sharp, so precise, that even the most experienced talent evaluators, people who've been doing this for decades, are now second-guessing everything they thought they knew about quarterback play. The buzz started quietly on Tuesday. By Friday, it was all anyone in football circles could talk about. And now it makes total sense why Deion Sanders has been so confident about his son's NFL future. What you're about to hear could seriously shift the way you see the 2025 NFL Draft. But before getting into the details of that private session, take a second to think about this. How many times have we seen quarterbacks hyped up only to fall apart under real pressure? How often do college stars shine in the NCAA but fold when they step into the NFL's high-stakes environment? The league's history is full of QBS who looked unstoppable in college but couldn't cut it at the next level. That's exactly why what Shedeur did last week is so unbelievable. This wasn't a flashy highlight reel against weak college defenses. It wasn't a carefully edited clip designed to go viral. This was a real, high-stakes NFL-style workout, with all the pressure you can imagine. Here's what we know. About 3 weeks ago, word started to get around that Shedeur had scheduled a private workout in Miami. But this wasn't just any workout. It took place at a top-tier training facility, the kind of place where legends like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers go during the offseason to sharpen their skills. It's a spot known for its privacy and intensity, far away from media noise. But here's where things got really serious. Shedeur didn't just bring in a few position coaches or local scouts. He invited the big names, the harshest critics. These were evaluators who don't get impressed by flashy stats or famous families. Think former NFL defensive coordinators who've built entire careers on shutting down elite QBs. Think scouts who've analyzed everyone from Peyton Manning to Patrick Mahomes. And they all showed up, every one of them. Inside the facility, the vibe was intense. 15 NFL decision makers, execs, scouts, and coaches were spread across the field. Clipboards out, stopwatches ticking, no smiles, no reactions. Just stone-faced pros who don't hand out compliments lightly. Then Shedeur walked onto the field. No hype, no background music, no cameras trying to catch a viral moment. Just him, carrying the weight of his family name and the hopes of Colorado fans everywhere. The place went silent. And what followed? That's when everything changed.
I think he's done a great job. He's a super nice kid. Those guys, the people I work with that interview him and stuff, he's a great guy. He's just got to, he's got to kind of put himself under the radar and work every day, which he seems to be doing.
The first drill looked pretty basic on the surface. 40-yard throws to stationary targets. Seems simple, right? Not exactly. These weren't college-level wideouts standing out there. They brought in former NFL receivers, guys who really understand how to create separation and run routes with pro-level precision. These are the kinds of receivers who can truly expose whether a quarterback has what it takes or not. Shedeur steps up to the line. First throw, absolute laser. 40 yards, fast and clean. Tight spiral, right on target. Hits the receiver perfectly in stride. Scouts glance at each other, but no reactions yet. They've seen strong arms before. Then comes the second throw. Still 40 yards, but now it's a comeback route. Way more challenging. The timing has to be spot on. The throw needs to be out before the receiver even makes his cut. Shedeur doesn't just hit the pass. He reads it ahead of time, releasing the ball before the receiver even turns. When the ball lands right in the receiver's chest, just as he comes out of the break, even some of the veteran coaches are caught off guard. One scout literally drops his clipboard. And that was just the warm-up. The real challenge came next. Game simulation. Imagine this. A mock defense made up of former NFL players. Not fringe guys, but legit starters from just a couple of seasons ago. These defenders know how to bait quarterbacks, disguise their coverage, and turn up the pressure. Here's the setup. 2-minute drill. Down 6 points. 85 yards to go. No timeouts. It's the kind of pressure that usually breaks college quarterbacks and separates the real ones from the hype. Shedeur lines up under center. The defense shows one look, but you can tell something's coming. There's a shift about to happen. Classic disguise to force confusion. As soon as the ball is snapped, the coverage rotates, just like expected. Most young QBs would freeze, panic, or try to force something risky, but not Shedeur. He steps up into the pocket with the kind of calm you see from seasoned pros. Eyes downfield the entire time. Then, he sees it. A tiny window, open for maybe half a second. A slot receiver breaking on a dig route. The linebacker trailing just behind. That window is so tight most college QBs wouldn't even attempt it. But Shedeur doesn't hesitate. He fires a strike right between two defenders, hitting his receiver in perfect stride. The linebacker stops mid-step, stunned. The safety trying to rotate over just shakes his head, like he can't believe what he just saw. The scouts lean in. They know they're watching something rare. And the best part? this was only the beginning.
Incredibly accurate.
Yes, he is.
He really understands not only offensive football, but he understands what you're doing as a defense. So he'll pick you apart that way. He processes quickly. Like, all those things to me are big time attributes. And I just remember last year at this time, Bo Nix falling. People saying, hey, Bo Nix is going to be a second rounder. And Bo Nix is not. By the way, that guy was one of the best.
But now they can't have him. The same people responsible for his slide in the draft are the ones scrambling. They called him cocky, arrogant, threw every label at him, hoping it would break him. But through it all, Shedeur stayed cool. He didn't let the noise shake him or throw him off course. His mindset never wavered. He knew exactly what he brought to the table, and no amount of criticism was going to change that. Instead of folding under the pressure, he locked in even more. Their doubt didn't shake him, it fueled him. Because deep down, he knew that what he showed on that field wasn't some lucky moment. It was real. It was proof of who he is and what he's capable of becoming. And now, those same scouts are left second-guessing everything. They thought they had him figured out. But what they saw last week flipped their entire evaluation on its head. At first, they saw attitude. They saw confidence and labeled it arrogance. They judged him before really watching him. But Shedeur didn't let it affect him. Instead, he showed exactly who he is when the lights are the brightest. And now those same scouts, the ones who once questioned if he had what it takes, are sitting in silence, unsure of what they just witnessed. His performance is making waves, and suddenly their early opinions are starting to look shaky. They didn't just see a strong-armed college quarterback out there. They saw a leader, calm, smart, in total control. The more his confidence grows, the better he gets. And now, they're starting to realize they might have missed something big. What they once brushed off as ego now looks more like confidence that can't be rattled. And his ability to shine under pressure is forcing a lot of people to rethink how they evaluate talent. Every day that passes, the question gets louder. How long can they keep ignoring the guy they once dismissed? Have we ever seen a quarterback flip the narrative like Shedeur Sanders just did? How often do players get counted out because of assumptions or snap judgments? How many times is confidence mistaken for arrogance? And how much potential gets overlooked because of it? Maybe this is that turning point. Maybe those very traits we criticize in young players are actually the ones that turn them into something great. What if Shedeur is exactly the kind of quarterback the league's been missing? What if we're watching the start of something special? So what do you think? Could Shedeur Sanders be the real deal? And what kind of impact will his rise have on the 2025 NFL Draft?
We plan to have, who will be the first quarterback game?
Shedeur, yeah.
Is Dylan Gabriel going to be like second quarter? He's out there because Flacco just needs a minute in the blue tent.
Yeah, that feels likely.
And if it's Shedeur Sanders and he starts balling,
then what?
Everything changes in a bat of an eye.
Yeah.
He's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dylan Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dylan Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last weekend, so the tenor of the conversation changed. He really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Kevin Stefanski made it clear that Shedeur Sanders will keep getting opportunities regardless of any new additions, identifying him as the club's emergency option moving forward. That stance set off fresh debate. If the Browns didn't plan to lean on Bailey Zappi, why bring him in at all? Zappi wasn't signed to be the starter. He's roster insurance, a safety net if the season throws a curveball. In practice, this points to Shedeur remaining the next man up at quarterback 1 if circumstances demand it. Cleveland's decision to add Bailey Zappi looks like a depth play, rather than a push to crown a new starter. It's a precaution meant to reduce the risk of getting thin at quarterback over a long season. By signing Zappi, the Browns keep their options open without committing to a full reset at the position. The move isn't about replacing Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. It's about maintaining coverage in case injuries or other issues hit the room. Overall, the message is simple. Shedeur stays in the primary development and contingency lane, while Zappe provides stability and flexibility behind the scenes.
I like the fact that they have him there. I think he'll be good in practice. He'll be good for some of those younger guys in helping them to prepare for a game and whatnot.
The Browns added Bailey Zappe primarily to steady the room and support their young quarterbacks this season. According to Mary Kay Cabot, his day-to-day will center on helping install weekly game plans, getting the QBs ready for opponents, and being prepared to step in if injuries hit. Cabot also noted he could become a quietly valuable piece. At the same time, the move may hint that Dylan Gabriel is drawing trade interest. Several teams are reportedly checking in, especially after Kenny Pickett's recent deal. With Gabriel in the spotlight, speculation is growing that Shedeur Sanders could be only a few games from settling in as the number 2, creating a real opening for him. Stephen A. Smith weighed in as well, emphasizing Sanders' steady climb and the momentum he's built. He argued that even before the latest preseason outing, Sanders had effectively moved ahead of Gabriel on the depth chart. Aside from a brief stumble last week, Smith said, Sanders has kept stacking positives, communicating cleanly with teammates, and staying locked on development. In his view, the Browns recognize Sanders' upside and are banking on continued growth as he evolves into a more impactful presence in the near future.
He really hasn't done anything. I mean, he hasn't gotten in any trouble. I mean, he hasn't been saying the wrong things. He hasn't been a less than a model citizen focused on, being the best that he can be. He hasn't done anything. So I think that when we look at it, he's going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day.
Stephen A. Smith underscored Shedeur Sanders' steady rise, emphasizing the real momentum behind his development. He said that even before the most recent preseason game, it was apparent Sanders had edged ahead of Dylan Gabriel on the depth chart. Smith added that, aside from a brief setback last week, Sanders has remained unbeaten, strengthened his communication with teammates, and is fully locked in on refining his craft. In Smith's view, the Browns clearly recognize Sanders' immense upside and are counting on him to keep growing into a more impactful, commanding presence as time goes on, a trajectory that reflects both his poise and the staff's increasing trust.
Going in there, he's working hard, he's trying to improve every day. He's saying all the right things, trying to elevate his level of play. And remember, up until this past weekend, we did think there was a legitimate argument that he should have been higher on the depth chart than Dylan Gabriel because he performed better against Carolina than Dylan Gabriel had performed in the preseason game against the Eagles. It's just that obviously he nosedived over this last week, and so the tenor of the conversation changed.
Stephen A. Smith's take lines up with head coach Kevin Stefanski's shifting approach to Shedeur Sanders. Lately, Stefanski has doubled down on developing Sanders and brushed off outside criticism. That's a notable change from earlier, when he downplayed concerns and offered sharper critiques. After the Kenny Pickett trade, the tone flipped. Sanders moved back into the spotlight with a real chance to prove himself. The timing matters, signaling the staff is ready to give him a genuine runway to show his upside.
I'm committed to his development, just like all of our rookies. So we'll continue to focus on getting our guys better. And that's what we'll stay committed to, and that's what's important to me.
Several analysts have weighed in on Shedeur Sanders' push for the QB2 job, and many point to Dylan Gabriel's size as a potential long-term hurdle to holding that role. Mike Tannenbaum praised Gabriel's calm, efficient preseason, and acknowledged his skill, but he also flagged height as a meaningful disadvantage at the NFL level, one that could make a trade scenario more realistic. Talent and mechanics matter, he noted, yet measurable limitations can be hard to mask over a full season, which might jeopardize Gabriel's grip on the backup spot and prompt teams to explore moves. Nick Wright echoed a similar theme. He credited Gabriel's ability and upside, but didn't sidestep the obvious constraint, size. Wright argued that while Gabriel can sharpen decision-making and accuracy, he can't change his frame, and that physical profile may complicate his path to becoming a steady NFL starter. By contrast, when stacked against Shedeur Sanders, who brings broader physical tools and a higher developmental ceiling, the gap becomes clearer. That comparison highlights the specific challenges Gabriel must overcome, and why momentum may be tilting toward Sanders for the QB2 role.
Gabriel, who, through no fault of his own, commits one of my cardinal sins of quarterbacking, which is he's tiny. And so, he's tiny.
Mike Florio, senior NFL analyst, weighed in on the Browns' internal debate and suggested the team is seriously considering moving Dylan Gabriel. He cautioned that Dylan Gabriel could thin out the quarterback competition, but he also framed it as a strong opening for Shedeur Sanders to step forward. With added reps and visibility, Sanders could make a real impression and lock himself in as a valuable QB2 option for a team that needs stability behind its starter. Florio also noted that after Kenny Pickett's departure, Cleveland may be even more inclined to explore a Gabriel trade. By contrast, Sanders is essentially off limits in his view because of his massive fan base and the public blowback a trade would trigger. With the conversation getting louder, Florio believes moving Sanders would do more harm than good for the organization's relationship with its supporters. That's why Gabriel stands out as the more likely trade candidate as the Browns try to manage depth, keep momentum, and stay aligned with their fans.
This is one of the natural and foreseeable byproducts of drafting him. He comes to town with a built-in fan base. The mouth breathers, as you call them, are in tow. Not that I called them that, but you called them that.
Yeah,
they're there.
Rich Eisen weighed in on Cleveland's situation, saying that if Dylan Gabriel is moved and Shedeur Sanders slides into the QB2 role, it's likely only a matter of time before he's starting later in the year. Eisen argued that the promotion would give Sanders the runway to cement himself, and he's confident Sanders is on track to become QB1 at some point this season. The momentum is clearly tilting towards Sanders, positioning him to take over when the opportunity presents itself. Big picture, Kevin Stefanski's message that Shedeur Sanders is the next man up if anything happens to Joe Flacco is just one part of a broader shift. Factor in Sanders' steady growth, the coaching staff's evolving view, and the ongoing chatter about Gabriel's future, and it's clear Sanders isn't being framed as a mere emergency option. He's a real contender for QB1. If Gabriel is dealt, that could be the final push that quiets the doubts and locks in Sanders as the Browns' future at the position, signaling a fresh chapter for the team. What's your read on Cleveland leaning toward Shedeur Sanders as a potential QB1? Would a Dylan Gabriel trade seal it? Or do you see a path where Gabriel still takes on a bigger role? How do you expect the battle among Sanders, Gabriel, and Joe Flacco to unfold? And what does it mean for the Browns going forward? Share your take. I'm curious where you land.
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened. By the way, Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League, now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
I understand in a situation like that, when it comes to the 3s and 4s that you're playing with that aren't going to be on the squad and not going to make the team, give your quarterback a chance. Okay, you know what? You know they can't hold up that long? Let's play quick game. Let's play quick game just to get Shedeur in the goddamn rhythm. But no, you come out calling regular offensive plays.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Shedeur Sanders wasn't just tossed into the game last night, he was dropped into a no-win setup. Nothing about it felt accidental. From his first snap, it looked like one player against the entire machine. The Cleveland Browns, led by head coach Kevin Stefanski, seemed intent on cooling the hype and slowing his momentum. Instead, the plan backfired. The performance and the circumstances around it have sparked a wave of scrutiny, with analysts and reporters now calling out Stefanski and the Browns front office for engineering a preseason situation that stacked the deck against Shedeur.
I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to...
Stephen A. Smith said from the outset that the entire preseason would be engineered to undermine Shedeur Sanders. He argued that even starting the first preseason game was part of a plan to make him stumble, fueling the idea that he's just a 5th-round pick, and validating the skeptics. Whether that blueprint existed before the games kicked off or not, it didn't stop there. Now, attention has turned to Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns for placing Shedeur in an unfamiliar system and circumstances that set him up to falter. Garrett Bush echoed that criticism, noting that regardless of how hard Shedeur worked before and after practices, he was never treated as a true priority in their plans.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Kevin Stefanski doubled down, saying his group was executing and placing the responsibility squarely on Shedeur Sanders for the miscues. When pressed on whether having Shedeur work all week with 3rd and 4th team units contributed to the mistakes, Stefanski wouldn't budge. Rather than acknowledge that first-team reps might have better prepared a rookie, he waved off the idea and reiterated that his job is to develop young players. But what kind of development plan withholds meaningful snaps with starters, then drops a promising prospect into live action and expects him to run concepts he's never practiced with them?
All of our players, Mary Kay, there's things that we can do better, and there's some good moments out there, but that's what our job as coaches, to develop.
Skip Bayless weighed in as well, blasting the Cleveland Browns for their handling of Shedeur Sanders and calling it just about the worst approach imaginable. He said the issues fit a troubling pattern under Kevin Stefanski, with Sanders repeatedly mishandled instead of developed. In Bayless's view, this wasn't a one-off mistake. Sanders hasn't been given real opportunities or meaningful support. That treatment has only increased the pressure and made it even harder for him to succeed.
I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened by the way Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League.
Chad Johnson added that by surrounding Shedeur Sanders with offensive players unlikely to make the roster, Kevin Stefanski effectively stacked the deck against him. He argued that even a quarterback of Tom Brady's caliber would have struggled in that setup. Analysts have echoed the point, putting the blame on the coaching staff for failing to give Shedeur a fair platform to succeed. Ochocinco also warned that critics would soon brand Shedeur a failure and dismiss him as a fifth-string option, while ignoring the core problem, who engineered the situation in the first place. Despite the noise, he framed the backlash as part of a broader effort to drag Shedeur down, noting that some people seem more intent on tearing him apart than acknowledging the circumstances that shaped his performance.
You just beat the guy. And that's okay. You get paid, he gets paid. Sometimes Ocho just gonna win because Ocho was just the better player. Sometimes the defensive back is gonna win. He wins some, you win more than you lose.
Despite the noise, Shedeur Sanders never criticized head coach Kevin Stefanski or anyone else. He put the outcome on himself and focused on what he could control. He acknowledged there was plenty to clean up and committed to doing the work. He framed it as a learning opportunity, refusing to let one preseason outing define him. Like a veteran, he owned the mistakes, recognizing he needed better eye discipline on those designed runs and smarter decisions to keep the offense on schedule. He even took responsibility for every sack, stating they were on him. The response was measured and mature, reflecting his grasp of the position and his readiness to improve.
No, I gotta watch the film, honestly. I can't say what it was. It's definitely different places where I could got my eyes in better spots and got to the progressions quicker and regardless of anything, so all those sacks, they definitely on me.
How long can Shedeur Sanders keep absorbing the blame on his own? How long before the decision makers who've steered this process either stand up for him or at least grant him a fair look? More and more voices around the league see this as deliberate. Shedeur cleared the first gauntlet, but he's still tangled in the same net. That's the core problem. Not one preseason outing, but an apparatus that keeps tilting the field. The treatment of Shedeur Sanders forces hard questions about fairness, opportunity, and bias in the NFL. Despite the obstacles placed in front of him, he's responded with poise, owning his performance, identifying areas to improve, and committing to growth. But the larger issue isn't his willingness to learn, it's the structure around him that keeps narrowing his margin for success. His experience with the Browns, being dropped into situations where failure felt pre-written, points to deeper systemic habits. Young players, especially those who don't fit a preferred narrative, get boxed in, judged early, and developed late. This isn't only one quarterback story. It mirrors what countless prospects face when perception, politics, or preconceived roles outweigh on-field evaluation. As analysts and commentators continue to spotlight what's happening, it's clear the conversation about Shedeur Sanders has moved beyond a single depth chart debate. It's about dismantling baked-in biases and delivering a truly even playing field. Shedeur's resilience is real and admirable. The unanswered question is whether the system will evolve fast enough to let players like him do more than survive so they can finally thrive. What do you think?
Was out there, I talked to Denzel Ward,
Yep.
I talked to some, but I can't say the name. But anyway, I done talked to some people. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Difference. I'm talking about football. I ain't talking about no media and all that hoopla and all them, on Twitter, they putting up the numbers. Some he was 10 for 12 for 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about when he's at the helm, he looks different. Whether he's going with the first team, second team, or third team, it don't matter.
From being buried on the depth chart as a fourth stringer to suddenly becoming a standout on the second team, Shedeur Sanders just pulled off the most impressive quarterback comeback since Tom Brady made the world believe he wasn't finished at 40.
What is it going to take for you to just buy in to Shedeur Sanders when players all around him are telling you how different he looks, how good he looked, how he just has that aura to him? Because it seems like all the players that are around Shedeur Sanders have nothing but great things to say about him and love him. Because again, he clearly just looks different than the rest of the competition that we've seen. And like I said, the last time I've seen guys go for or, you know, say things about a certain player like that, it was Baker Mayfield. So could 12 be that guy? How long until we see 12? Because I feel like it's just a matter of...
The same haters who were cheering when he got dropped to fourth string are now scrambling for excuses faster than a glitchy Wi-Fi during the Super Bowl. Get ready, because this isn't just a step up on the depth chart. It's a serious reality check that's got the critics choking on their own words with a big helping of humble pie.
Being said, I see some balls coming out of Shedeur Sanders at that kid, and I'm like, kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I'm reading.
He can sling it.
I see him, you know, some of the veterans, how they talk to him, mic'd up, see what he's doing in the community.
Yep. Talking about Njoku there?
Njoku, mic'd up. Yeah, once you see, you know, different little interactions and things like that, we know, I know he has the talent. We'll see. It'll be a competition that usually brings the best out of guys, especially young guys, so I'm interested to see how that quarterback situation.
I've heard he's been outstanding.
The Cleveland Browns training camp just turned into the most talked about event in town. All thanks to Shedeur Sanders, who took his spot as fourth string and used it as motivation for one of the most impressive rises the NFL has seen in years. While everyone was busy counting him out and calling his career dead, Sanders was quietly putting together a performance so good that coaches are saying they haven't witnessed anything like it in the last 15 years.
Drafted in the 5th round, all that means nothing when it's time to play football and that whistle blows. He looks different than the rest of the competition. That's what I heard. And I'm talking from a not Brother Ward, I'm just talking about from sources that's in that room, that's on that field, that's playing the sport. Man, come on, man.
Yep, coaches with decades of experience are honestly scratching their heads, trying to figure out how someone goes from being a practice squad afterthought to seriously competing for a starting spot in just a few weeks.
Thing is, they never planned on taking him. The problem is, like Ocho Cinco said, you got somebody that has endeared himself to the locker room. And guess what? The difference between him and Tim Tebow, the biggest one, is he can play. He can throw the ball. Tim Tebow running around being an H-back, he can throw the ball. And he's done everything he needs to do. He ain't saying nothing. He ain't rocking the boat. He ain't mad about the reps. He ain't mad about none of that. All the people out there want to see is this, like Tyver said earlier. We want to see what he can do with Jerry Jeudy.
That's it.
I want to see what he can do with David Njoku. I want to see him with Junkins. I want to see him with the first running backs. If you are cooking, if you are beating down the doors with the 3s and 4s, guess what? You deserve more. That was a bar. It rhymed. It was.
Remember when Mary Kay Cabot dropped that bombshell report saying Shedeur Sanders was the fourth string quarterback? The internet blew up faster than a Michael Bay explosion. Critics came out of nowhere, like ants at a picnic, rushing to call his NFL dreams dead on arrival. They claimed he was only shining against guys who'd either end up on practice squads or be out of the league by September. They pointed out he wasn't getting reps in 11-on-11 drills and said he needed to earn his way up the depth chart.
Dude, listen, the guy, all I can say is that he goes where the ball's supposed to go and it looks the way it's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. And when I hear that tells me it sounds like the Browns may have got a steal with Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round because I think he'll have a chance. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting quarterback in September, like week 1 or 2 or whatever it may be early in the year, but I think he's got a chance to develop into something that hopefully would preclude them from having to draft a quarterback first overall or top 5 next year.
Being said, I see some balls coming out of Shedeur Sanders at that kid, and I'm like, kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I'm reading.
He can sling it.
I see him, some of the veterans, how they talk to him, mic'd up, see what he's doing in the community.
Yep. You talking about Njoku there?
Njoku, mic'd up. Yeah, once you see, different little interactions and things like that, we know I know he has the talent. We'll see. It'll be a competition that usually brings the best out of guys, especially young guys. So I'm interested to see how that quarterback situation.
I've heard he's been outstanding.
Funny how the tables have turned. Those same critics are now watching Sanders climb the depth chart like he's scaling Mount Everest with rocket boosters. The guy they wrote off is now the one they can't stop paying attention to. Every completion sends a message. Every perfect throw is a reminder that real talent doesn't stay hidden forever. And with every practice, he's showing that maybe, just maybe, the Browns stumbled upon their hidden gem.
One thing for the fans to sit here and hype up Shedeur Sanders because we all know how we get about certain players that we like. But it's another thing when you hear it from players who are actually on the field, who are actually in the locker room, who are actually next to this guy every single day. Because I'm sure we've all seen the quote by now by Chad Johnson when they were on the nightcap, and he talked to some young bulls. He talked to Denzel Ward. He didn't want to give away his name, but he already did it. And he said that Denzel Ward says he looks different from the rest of the competition. We've already been seeing.
When word got out that Shedeur Sanders officially moved up to second-team reps, passing Dylan Gabriel along the way, the shockwaves hit from Cleveland all the way to Canton. This wasn't just some small roster tweak, this was huge. One day he's throwing passes to practice squad guys, and the next he's running with the second team, putting real pressure on the starting quarterback spot. The promotion came after Sanders completely dominated minicamp, showing toughness, leadership, and total control on the field. His passes were right on target, hitting receivers in stride. His decision-making was sharp as a blade, and his grasp of the playbook had coaches nodding like proud parents at a school play. But this wasn't beginner's luck. It was steady, calculated execution that the coaching staff just couldn't ignore.
And I don't know, there was never no one thought he was this like malcontent or like a bag. It wasn't.
That was the word,
That was kind of what was being said. That was kind of what was being said.
No. The pre-draft process was so unorthodox that he didn't go through it all like everyone else did. And I think there's a lot that we can look back on this thing, especially if he becomes a star in this league and say, you could point fingers in a million ways. Not having a pure agent, not having the workouts that everyone else did, going to these teams, not necessarily being as willing to throw the ball when asked at the All-Star games, like that kind of stuff I think might have stung him and might have turned teams off. But I know
when Stephen A. Smith starts singing your praises, that's when you know you've officially arrived. The ESPN personality, famous for his fiery takes and no-nonsense analysis, didn't just mention Sanders. He gave him the full Stephen A. treatment. He praised Sanders not only for his top-tier football skills, but also for the intangibles that separate the good from the great. This kid's mindset puts him ahead of the pack, Stephen said, with the confidence of someone who's seen enough football to spot greatness from a mile away. He pointed out Sanders' composure, mental toughness, and relentless drive to compete at the highest level. When Stephen A. says, "It's not just about throws and stats anymore," you better believe the whole football world is paying attention.
All this stuff wasn't made up. I covered the draft for ESPN. I'm sitting on the desk. It's Shefty, it's Mel, it's me, it's Lewis. I heard some of the same things that Deion Sanders is talking about. And S.A. and Cantor, you know this, we all have relationships. We all have people who tell us information, they help us prepare to do our job. I heard some of the same things. Some of these things weren't necessarily made up, at least I don't think, from the people that I trust who told me these things. And so
he said he thought Dylan Gabriel was a little bit better. Y'all, chill out. You're making this combative when there's no need to be combative.
The fact that you're only here for Shedeur, okay.
Both the Browns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In their mind of logic, we're going to, and I'm pretty sure this same group of people complain about things that don't go their way in other realms of life.
As the season draws near, the conversation around Shedeur Sanders is getting more intense, with fans standing firmly behind their quarterback and believing in his potential. On the flip side, some critics haven't held back, calling those supporters naive or even foolish for backing Shedeur before he's had a real shot in the NFL. But sometimes, it's the most passionate voices that stick to what they believe, and Garrett Bush is definitely one of them. Recently, Emmett Golden criticized Shedeur's fans, accusing them of overhyping him and being too defensive. But Garrett Bush wasn't about to let that slide. He clapped back, pointing out the double standard in Emmett's comments. Garrett reminded everyone that Emmett was already pushing for Dylan to be the starter, even though Dylan clearly isn't ready for that spot yet. Garrett's point came through loud and clear. There's no reason to boost other quarterbacks just to downplay what
It's sad. If it doesn't fit your narrative, you are the enemy. No room for civil discourse.
Shedeur brings to the table. Garrett Bush didn't stop there. He made it clear that the support for Shedeur Sanders isn't just about what he can do on the field. There's a bigger picture. Garrett pointed out that Shedeur has already shown what he's made of off the field, especially with how he carries himself in interviews and press conferences. His leadership, confidence, and presence behind the mic have already made a strong impression. Even though Shedeur hasn't played an official NFL game yet, Garrett Bush didn't hold back when responding to the people still doubting him. He took on every critic, questioning how anyone could look at Shedeur and not see the talent. How are they rating him like this when he's clearly that good? Garrett asked. He called out how unfair and inaccurate some of the evaluations were, saying people were seriously underestimating Shedeur's abilities, and fans weren't just going to stay quiet about it. Garrett made one thing crystal clear. Judging Shedeur so harshly before he's even had the chance to prove himself in the league doesn't make sense. There's a lot of talent there that's just waiting to be seen. He kept driving the point home. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a potential future star. He's ready right now. Garrett said Shedeur has what it takes to be the face of the Browns today. From how seriously he prepares, to his calm under pressure, to how he shows up when it matters most. Everything about Shedeur screams leadership, and that's exactly the kind of player Cleveland needs.
Of course, I already think that he's better than the other quarterbacks. Because that move to the 5th round, that's cool. They might have to go along with it, but to me, I think if you ask who got the best tools, I'm going with Shedeur Sanders.
Garrett Bush didn't mince words. He made it crystal clear. If anyone comes after Shedeur Sanders' fans without a good reason, they're going to get the same kind of pushback they're seeing now. No filters, no holding back. Garrett wasn't backing off, and he made sure everyone knew just how real the loyalty and dedication of Shedeur's supporters are. He understood that this fan base isn't just rallying behind Shedeur because of his talent on the field. They believe in his character, his grind, and the idea that he can lead Cleveland into a better future. That support runs deep. Not long ago, Colin Cowherd also decided to take a jab at Shedeur Sanders and his fans, and what he said definitely raised eyebrows. Colin went beyond just sharing an opinion. He challenged Shedeur's supporters, telling them to defend him the same way they had for guys like Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson on Reddit. But this wasn't some offhand take. Colin took it further, targeting everything Shedeur had worked hard to build. His words didn't feel like simple criticism. They came off as straight-up disrespect toward both the player and the people backing him. Colin's remarks weren't just about Shedeur's game. They were a direct hit on the commitment and belief his fan base continues to show.
100 miles an hour. Yep. All you fanboys, go ahead. Manziel, Baker, Deshaun Watson, defended it to the hilt on your Reddit account. Sorry.
After Colin Cowherd made his bold remarks, it didn't take long for the backlash to roll in. Fans weren't about to let that kind of disrespect slide, especially after he came so hard at Shedeur Sanders and the people who support him. The response on social media was fast and intense, with fans speaking out loudly about how upset and frustrated they were. Colin had to face serious heat for what he said, and it quickly became clear that his shots at Shedeur weren't something fans were going to just brush off or forget. Sharing an opinion about a player's talent or potential is one thing. That's part of what makes sports fun to talk about. Everyone's entitled to their own take, and discussions around player projections are nothing new. But going as far as mocking an entire fan base and calling them dumb? That crosses a line. Critiquing Shedeur's performance is fair game, but insulting the people who believe in him? That's a whole different story. Fans put in time, energy, and emotion into rooting for their favorite players, especially someone like Shedeur, who's already shown so much potential. Calling that kind of loyalty dumb isn't just rude, it completely misses what sports fandom is all about. These fans aren't blindly following someone. They see the work Shedeur puts in, they see the future he could have, and they stand behind him because they truly believe in what he can become. Mocking that belief takes away from the heart of being a fan. People care deeply about Shedeur Sanders, not just for what he can do on the field, but for what he represents. For a lot of fans, this isn't just about football. It's about hope. It's about seeing someone lead their team with strength and determination. The idea of Shedeur stepping up as Cleveland's starting QB isn't just some random dream. It's something fans are emotionally tied to. They want to see him succeed, grow, and become the player they know he's capable of being. For many, the connection goes beyond football. It's personal. It's about loyalty, belief, and holding on to the idea that better days are ahead with Shedeur leading the way.
Let me go play once again with your legal ground. Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur Sanders is all about the hustle, and he's clearly not taking his foot off the gas anytime soon. Even in the offseason, he's locked in. He was recently seen in Miami, completely focused and getting ready for what might be the biggest test of his football journey so far, a 4-man battle for the starting quarterback spot. The buzz around him is real, and with so much on the line, Shedeur isn't just showing up, he's showing up with intention, making it obvious he's determined to earn that role. Amid all the talk and debate around Shedeur Sanders, Garrett Bush has stepped up as one of his most outspoken supporters, not just for the player himself, but for the fans who've stood by him. A lot of those fans have taken heat from critics who label their support as blind or misplaced. But Garrett's not just defending Shedeur's skill set. He's standing strong for the fans who truly see something in him. His sharp responses to voices like Emmett Golden aren't just about defending Shedeur, they're about protecting the loyalty and passion of the fan base. Garrett gets that Shedeur's supporters aren't just tagging along for the ride. They see leadership. They see someone who puts in the work, both on and off the field. Their passion comes from real belief in his vision, in his drive, and in the idea that he has what it takes to lead their team forward. Garrett Bush has made his position clear. He's not going to sit quietly while fans are mocked for standing by their guy. His support goes beyond Shedeur. It's about honoring the commitment and spirit of those who believe in him. In a time when fandom often gets dismissed or questioned, Garrett reminds everyone that this kind of connection between a player and their fans is bigger than just wins and losses. It's about belief, it's about unity, and it's about backing someone who represents something greater. So, what's your take on Shedeur Sanders and the fans who are all in on his journey? Do you believe in what he brings to the table? Or do you think the hype's getting ahead of the reality? And if you're still unsure, how do you view the energy surrounding Shedeur and the people who support him? Jump into the comments and let us know where you stand.